episode of the Habibis podcast. Three game developers drinking good Arab tea. My name is Rami Ismail. I'll be your host for this episode.
And I'm Osama Dorias.
وأنا فوزي مسمار.
Yalla. I've gotten a little better at this announcement thing.
Yeah, you're actually good. You didn't ask for emails or anything. It's
Just
incredible.
straight up, just went straight up, went for it.
Yeah.
It was actually a little hard because I spent last week presenting an orchestra, and I had a different intro for that. And I actually while the intro music was playing, I'm like, don't do that one. Don't do that one. Don't do that one.
Oh, the orchestra played the Habibis music? That's nice.
Oh, next time. No, we played games music, which it was really cool. Like I will say, there's something really. I think we forget that as game developers, right? That we're creatives, and that on the other side of what we do is people that are happy
Mhm.
and that are enjoying like playing the games and are just sitting there smiling or having fun or laughing. Like I know somewhere deep down we know it, but it's harder to have an emotional reaction to it.
Mhm.
And standing on the stage and presenting the orchestra, playing video games music was the North Netherlands Symphonic Orchestra. And they played video games music. They played Journey. They played Assassin's Creed Black Flag. We played Horizon, Halo. We had Bloodborne, The Witcher,
Nice.
That's incredible.
Skyrim.
That's a great selection.
Yeah, we had we had all sorts of things. We had Shadow of the Colossus, Final Fantasy. So it was just an amazing Mega Man medley and a Sonic medley.
What was the music you walked into?
So I didn't have music to walk into. I the orchestra tunes before the show starts, and it's this
Nice.
very wild sound that is very consistent
I
for
love
some
it.
reason. Anyway,
Yeah.
I loved working with the orchestra, but I also loved seeing the response in people. I think it's easy to forget that, at the other end of our work is all the people being excited and seeing their response when a song started and they recognized the first notes of like Unforgotten from Halo, or
Yeah.
they suddenly realize when Julie Elvin, the soundtrack vocalist that was singing,
Mhm.
when she like said the word Dragonborn, sang the word Dragonborn,
Mhm.
even that people realized like, oh, we're getting Skyrim.
Yeah.
That was really fun. And it's such a cool machine. Orchestras are and it was funny because I was talking to one of the people in the orchestra because I've been working with them for years now, so a lot of them recognize me, and I've worked with them before. And I told them that it's just such a joy to see the orchestra as like such a big machine. And he looked at me as like organ, like yeah, machine organ. He's like, no, you're a digital kid. We're an analog. We're an organ. We work together like an organ. And it's like, oh, yeah, fair. But it's so cool. It's so fascinating. Like these people, there's like 60, 70 people sitting in this big half circle, each with their own instrument. They're all experts at what they do, right?
Yeah.
Each of them is incredible at their instrument, and they listen to each other. They have little nods to each other. They grin at each other when they like do something good. They like help each other out when somebody messes up and like kind of like do a little like apologetic nod. The conductor, the
Maestro.
person at the maestro, or the conductor, yeah.
Mhm.
We had a guy named Arjan Tien, and
Mhm.
he's in charge of the Dutch. It's not quite the Dutch military orchestra, but kinda is the Dutch military orchestra.
Mhm.
So I expected sort of like a very like, I don't know, dusty guy. This guy had the time of his life.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was having so much fun. And he didn't know any of the songs. He didn't know any of the tracks he was playing. He'd never heard of any of it. He heard things in that music that I'd never heard. We had a little conversation up front where he, um, so the way, and this is also mind blowing. Actually, let me tell you this because this is more mind blowing to me than anything else. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I get there on Wednesday. That was rehearsal. So I get there on Wednesday, and I talk to the people that are there, and they've just wrapped up rehearsal, and we're gonna go over my text one more time and sort of like adjust final things, see if everything fits, figure out the timings, when do I say what. And um, one of the orchestra people walks up to me and is like, "It's going to be a good one this time. I mean, it sounds like a good program." I'm like, "Yeah." I just go like, "Wait, this is the first time you've played it?" He's like, "Yeah, I never. This is Wednesday. We played our first show on Thursday."
That's incredible. That's
They're
incredible.
they're playing by sight.
Yeah,
They're
of course,
reading
that's
the music
orchestra.
as it's happening. But they rehearsed twice.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
That's it. One time just to rehearse, and then a second one, general rehearsal, where this amazing little error happened during the Sonic like medley. They
Hmm.
were playing it and they were playing it beautifully, and then suddenly the conductor went like, "No, no, no, that was unclear." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" I'm just sitting there, right, like watching, and he goes like, "No, that was unclear. Sorry, that was supposed to be a 7." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes like, "So we'll pick up at 106." And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah. As
And they're all just making like a little note on their like you see people like stop rehearsing for a second, like write a little note on their sheet music, and then just pick up flawlessly.
yeah. Ma-
Wow.
Man, like it takes a lot of skill to be in the orchestra. Like you have a lot of these people trained for years or decades to get to this level and to be accepted. They're professional musicians, right? I spent a lot of times around the music faculty growing up because I was into music, as I said earlier. And I remember one time I was attending the Jordanian orchestra rehearsing, and there was the maestro on the stage, and then they started playing this symphony. Then at some point he stops everything, and then he calls out one of the dudes in the third row in the violin. I don't know, there's like 15 violin people in the
Right.
string section. He calls out this one dude, and we're like, "You're off key."
Yeah.
And I'm
Wow.
like, "How did he hear that?" There's like 60
Wow.
musicians on
Right.
that stage right now, and he just picks this one dude with the violin, and the dude was actually off key, so he tunes his violin real quickly, and
Yeah.
then they
No, but
continue
it's
working.
stuff like that. But it's seeing that come together and seeing everybody play with each other and for each other and together. Like we had a harpsichord and a pianist, and one person played both
Yeah.
the harpsichord and the piano,
Mhm.
and
How?
then there was a harpist next to that. And there was one point where they just needed to be perfectly in sync because they were pretty much the only thing playing
Mhm.
Yeah.
at that point. And just like the little like nod at each other, right? Like this little like who's leading that interaction. That's all. It
Wow.
just happens,
Yeah.
but it doesn't just happen. This is like like Fauzi's saying, this is decades of experience and practice.
Absolutely.
And they've got this conductor up front who's not their normal conductor. This was a guest conductor for the show,
I was
and
just
just
going to ask, like, I know these people are professionals. How much of it is them spending time with each other to get to know each other, the tells, the nods, all this stuff, and how much is it just like reading? They know how to read the music and they know how to perform, and you could drop them in any orchestra and they could do just as well. And you just said that the conductor was a guest conductor, and that is mind blowing.
I was about to say it's
right.
probably the latter, Osama, not the prior.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're that good. They're really just that good.
Wow.
And that's the thing. Like obviously, North Netherlands Orchestra is a. It's not a completely stable group, but a lot of people I've worked with for like 5 years now
Mhm.
for these concerts.
Mhm.
I met
But
once. Go ahead, Rami.
yeah, the conductor is also just a fascinating person in the entirety of it. It's like the amount of control and emotion that they bring to it. Because I've seen different people conduct the same orchestra now, right?
Mhm.
The previous time it was a different guy, Etienne. This time it was Aryan, and the energy they bring really does change how the music sounds and how it's played, and like the sort of emphasis and the sort of like connotations, and he's communicating that with these tiny hand gestures that somehow everybody who's playing music, reading it live as they're playing it,
Yeah.
they're still also paying attention to him,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but he's paying attention to everybody, like
Yeah.
everybody. He knows everything. He sits there and he's somehow keeping track of everything that's happening. He knows when a percussionist is a little late with grabbing something, so he can like slow things down a little, or like like he can fix things on the fly,
That's
and he does.
that's incredible.
Um, yeah,
He
I
would be
met.
an excellent games producer. Just saying.
yeah. we We had a really fun chat about that because I said, the difference between my job and your job really is that when I mess something up, it takes 3 to 6 weeks to figure out that we've messed up, and then like 7 to 8 months to fix it. Well, you have to do it live, and then we still get to fix it before we launch. Well, when you do it, you mess up in 0.3 seconds.
Yep.
You have 2 seconds to fix it, and everybody notices.
I met musicians once from Video Game Live, which is, I think, a
Mm,
similar thing. It's a group of musicians that tour the world and they play video game music.
hmm
There's a core set in the. It's almost as an orchestra. There's a core set of musicians that do the touring, but there's also additional roles in which they hire from the
Locals.
local
Yeah.
musicians to help them out and something like that. So a lot of the people that are actually playing on that orchestra, they're like the people that Rami is talking about, classically trained musicians who a lot of them don't know anything about video games really. And they were telling me that night is that performing for Video Game Live or like these kinds of shows is their best thing yet. As well as some of their favorite gigs is because it's like they get to feel what it's like to be rock stars. Like when we're playing in symphony, like people are only will clap once we're done, and we're like just find a clap and whatever, and they're like, here we come on stage. I play two notes, and people go like, "Whoa!" And like there's people yelling and screaming, and people jumping up
Yeah.
and down, and people in the audience crying, and they're like, "We don't
Wow.
get to feel that
Yeah.
usually."
No,
Wow.
it's really, and I think that was another thing that's really fun. So Aryan, the conductor, obviously we talked a lot beforehand, like sort of like to tune the presentation and to figure out when I was speaking, and he's the boss,
Mhm.
right? I was hosting, so I was the person who opened the show. I was the person that introduced things. I introduced the people. I introduced the orchestra. I explained some stuff. My job was really to be a translator because the NNO, the North Netherlands Orchestra, they're quite adventurous, but in essence, they're a classical symphonic orchestra.
Mhm.
So that means that half of the audience is not a gaming audience,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So my job was to create a context for the people that don't know games, while at the same time making it interesting for people that do know games, right?
And
So
looking good doing it, if I may add. I saw the pictures.
the suit was my favorite
Oh,
thing. It was
Gotcha.
such a good suit.
you clean up real nice. It was really
It,
rare to see you not
remarkable,
in
Ralph.
in a t-shirt or a leather jacket, and you clean up. You should do it more often, Remy.
He
Honestly.
probably
The
wanted to wear a backpack still on the stage,
right.
and his headset's around his neck. And the conductor's like, "No, none of that
No,
stuff."
not.
It was really fun. I got the basic assignment: wear something that will make you stand out from the orchestra, but that won't be more striking than the soloist,
Mm.
the singer. And the singer is Julie Elvin, and she's like, her name is Julie Elvin. Like she has an elvish appearance anyway. Um, she's an incredible singer. And she was the original singer on the Horizon Zero Dawn soundtrack. So if you've listened to that, that's her
Wow.
voice. Um, she's on World of Warcraft. She's on League of Legends. She's incredible, and um, we got really lucky with what we picked because I went for a blue suit with a white shirt and gold in the tie and the tie and the tie and the shoes.
Want to be Arab without some gold in there?
I just It was fun because I actually go to the same store for all my suits. It's this tiny village, pretty far north from where I live, so it's kind of a pain to get to. But they've done my suits for like 7 or 8 years now, and they are phenomenal. They are incredible. They like I walked in, I called them ahead. I'm like, hey, I need a suit for like 2 weeks from now. Can you make sure that we have something? And I walked into the store, and they just had a bunch of ideas, and they knew my sizes, even though COVID meant that they didn't fit anymore. Um, that was a little confrontational. Go- well, we have some suits. We looked your size up. We have some ideas, but I think we're gonna have to
Just
see if we have them in your new size. And I'm like, "Oh, mm, okay,
The pandemic hasn't been kind to all of us.
no,
Oh,
it was a
that's
little
perfect.
confrontational, to be honest. But yeah, they had some ideas, and I told them like I need to stand out from a crowd that is mostly going to be in classical black, and classical white. So what do you have? And they had green, they had blue, they had a gray, and I ended up with a blue suit with brown with a brown pattern. It's really hard to see, but it's blue with brown, and we just matched the gold to the brown. Like after some talking, and I will tell you, those shoes they make the look.
Yep, agreed.
The shoes make the look like 100%. And I had to sit on a chair for the entire show, so I needed good shoes because they were going to be the frontmost thing to the audience in many ways.
Hmm.
Um, they did not have them in my size, so the ones I'm wearing are actually one size too small,
Oh.
and I was dying on that. So like that is like I have pretty big feet, and like going one size too small in every direction is just it hurt, and I feel bad complaining because Judy was on like some ridiculous heels, um, but she was in this gorgeous constellation like dress, white, so it worked out perfectly. The blue and the white worked really well. But the at the end of the show, during like the meet and greet and like fan mingling, she could just take off the shoes because under her dress you can't see that she isn't wearing shoes anymore. I just noticed that she suddenly went like five
Shorter.
centimeters, 10 centimeters shorter, and I'm like, wait, what? But what orchestras have so many rules. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. But like, I mean, I did since 2017, but it's just cool to see it every time.
It sounds like an amazing night, Rami. You are completely excused for uploading the last episode of the podcast on Arab time.
It was very Arabic. Yeah, the shows were Thursday and Friday, and I normally stage the podcast on Thursday night, and then Osama right here usually does the
The show
notes.
notes, yeah.
But yeah, it turns out that if you get off a stage like that, the adrenaline is high enough that you just go to bed.
Of course. Of course.
So
It's a missed opportunity for not calling the episode Arab Time Part 2.
that's fair. I actually thought about that, but then I realized that we didn't talk about Arab time on the episode.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just called it episode 37. I actually uploaded it right before this episode. I'm sorry, Osama. I don't think
It's
before we
okay.
recorded this episode, Osama hasn't had time to do the show notes yet.
I'll
So
get there.
anybody who has complaints about episode 37, named episode 37, not having show notes, please email us at info@habibis.com.
All right, that's 2 times we asked for emails so far. Let's
Hey,
see
you
how
know.
many we could squeeze in.
But yeah, so the one thing I wanted to say still about the orchestra is the thing that I found most fun is seeing the orchestra learn about video games, because I was telling them as much as I was the audience.
Yes.
And there was this amazing moment where Aryan, the conductor, he walked up to me and he's like, I really just the program has so much color and music, and it's so diverse, and we're playing a lot of like interesting material. And he just goes like, there's one track that I didn't like as much. It's near the end. It's a little bit Pirates of the Caribbean-y. I'm like,
Huh.
Assassin's Creed Black Flag. He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, how about after rehearsal, when you've played it, you tell me which one it is. And so before the first night, we go on stage. He comes up to me and he goes, it's called Dragonborn.
Oh.
I'm like, what? That's like some epic Skyrim. Like, that's no way there's Pirates of... And I'm listening to the track and I'm like, oh no.
Wow.
There is indeed a lot of Pirates of the Caribbean in this track.
Really?
And they don't listen to the music the same way we do. My mom came to one of the shows and she's played Shadow of the Colossus, and when they played Shadow of the Colossus afterwards, she told me like you can see yourself walking through the fields and like seeing the Colossus
No, that's
and
amazing.
jumping onto it once and then climbing it while it's trying to shake you off, and then you stab it and it falls, and it's this sad moment, and you could see the entire journey.
Mhm.
And then I'm talking to people in the orchestra and they're like, yeah, it builds really beautifully. And they're like, yeah, and it does this very sudden transition into this melancholic like sadness near the end. And I'm like, yeah, that's when you stab it in the face. It's
Oh
like-
my god, that's perfect.
it's just so good to realize that people don't know. They don't see what we see when we listen to that music. When
Yeah.
you play Halo, the first note comes in. I'm a 16-year-old kid with my friends sitting behind an Xbox
Yep.
watching Halo 2 boot up for the first time. And just sitting at that main menu, going over New Mombasa and like seeing the supercarrier, the Covenant supercarrier above Earth, and being like, wait, they're on Earth?
Yeah.
That
Music is powerful that way. Like our brains make these connections. Like I don't know about you, but I have so many memories that bring about like the songs that played during that time, or vice versa. A song that plays that brings about a memory. Like these associations are so powerful and strong. So the context that just comes sweeping in whenever you listen to music, that they're missing something by not having that. I mean, they have something else. Granted, they have like more clarity of being able to actually see the music for what it is itself, but that context is powerful. That's why people are crying and they're reliving moments that are dear to them. It's incredible.
music is special, y'all. Like I love video games, but like, you know, seeing how much the music of the games alone can do, we work in a pretty cool medium that we get to combine all of that into one thing.
We do, absolutely.
Did you get to play anything of that medium during the week?
What
Yeah,
an epic transition. We have to call out this transition.
beautiful,
Oh,
beautiful.
I
I
learned
think if
from
we
the
keep
master.
calling out if we keep calling out transitions, we will never actually have a smooth transition because we will then spend 20 seconds talking about how great the transition is.
it's more fun that way. I'm sorry.
That is true. Very unique about our podcast. We're the worst at transitions because we keep calling out good transitions. No, I did play a bunch of games. So at the start of the week, before I headed to the orchestra cities, I played a bit more of Deathloop.
Uh-huh.
Yep. So did I.
Did you finish it?
No, have you?
I haven't either. I kind of gotten a bit cold about it. Like I feel I got to the part of it when it's becoming a little bit grindy and it's getting a bit harder to boot sometimes.
Yeah, I think I have the same thing. It's feeling a bit more prescriptive than I thought.
Prescriptive, what do you mean?
Like it's a little bit more do this, do that. You know, there's a little bit more guidance than I feel I would have liked. Like it stopped feeling like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the puzzle. Sort of like, okay, how am I gonna pull this one heist off?
Yeah.
And instead it feels more like here's this sequence of things you should do. And to do that sequence of things, you have to do it poorly a whole lot of times.
Yeah.
I
think
see.
I think it's that started to kind of get to me, in which like there was this first time I visited this location and I needed to do this objective. And that applies to any location, any objective. First time I'm like, sneaking, trying to be completely stealthy, and I'm like, don't want to get detected. Make sure I get like the smoothest, best run possible. Or like even if I'm going and shooting everybody, I was like, all right, that was cool. I did this objective, done.
Right.
But then when I have to go to that same place again to do another thing, and then I go like, oh yeah, I have to go through those people again
Yeah.
and again and again. It starts to lose its
And
magic a bit. It
thus-
becomes like I don't want to go through it. Like I've snuck my way against these guys before. I just want to shoot my way through them this time, or I just
I just machete. Machete.
or
everybody.
machete them. You know what? It becomes like I've dealt with these guys before. It's becomes a little bit more cumbersome, but I have to deal with them every time I want to get something done in this area.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it.
What do you think they could have done better to fix that?
I think the main thing is I think the evolution of your character is pretty good.
Okay.
And that you get more stuff and more abilities to take some shortcuts,
Yes.
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
as you get stronger, you actually get to avoid a lot of stuff, or you get to like deal with enemies a lot faster.
You start to fly away, or like you shift your
Right.
way on top of the high hills or something like that.
And that works, but I feel like it doesn't work enough. I feel like I want better, more shortcuts to like go through things. I'm sure if I watch the speedrunner absolutely ace this game, it's going to be spectacular to watch. But for some reason, I'm not finding those options, and most of the time, I'm getting into a space real quick, murdering everything, and then moving on. But I'm not having fun with it anymore. I'm just doing the motion, right?
Yeah, exactly. It feels like been there, done that. And if I'm doing it over and over again, it goes like it's just, it feels a bit like taking too much time.
Do you
Yeah,
think
I want to be either far more powerful or far more fast.
Yeah. So like like I think another page from the Dark Souls book, just opening that door, meaning that I don't have to go through that stuff anymore
Exactly.
and go
Shortcut.
directly to the meat. Level design wise, I think that was great.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
the abilities, like Rami said, they allow you to skim through a lot of things, but you can still, like, get detected and then everything goes to hell and then die and re-loop again. So,
Yeah.
like, you can still have to deal with the stuff, even if you're more powerful.
Hmm.
The
Do,
encounters, they're still the encounters. They're not, you can't avoid them entirely.
yeah.
do you think more variety in the randomness would have helped as well, or do you really feel like,
Well,
because like, is it mundane
I
because you feel like you've done it before and there are no
well, I
surprises?
mean, to be really precise, there is very little randomness. That's
Mhm.
kind of the point of Deathloop, is that the encounters, the skirmishes, the scenarios are really dependable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're deterministic. They
they
play
should
out the
be
way.
because it's
Yeah,
looping.
right.
Yes.
So everything plays out fully deterministically, as far as I can tell. Things play out the way they play out, and you are the only force that changes it.
Yeah.
So it's more that if you're trying to achieve something, and to do that you have to do this, that, then that, then it means then this, that, and then that are exactly the same every time,
Yeah.
because you're doing this, that, that,
Yeah.
right?
But I don't.
And it
I
means
don't
that
mean like from the context that exists in the game because of the narrative that they chose. I mean, do you think that's what differentiates this from other? It's not exactly a roguelike, but games that loop. Usually with roguelikes, the reason it's interesting to go back and back again is because you don't know what to expect. Like the layout is going to be different, the characters are going to be
right.
different, and that makes it a lot more. It gives
I
you a
th-
lot more surprises, a lot more interesting.
I
It
think
doesn't.
it's like an inverted roguelike.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? Like in a roguelike, you every scenario you come across is unpredictable, but you get more understanding of the tools you have.
Yeah.
So 90% of the time it's unpredictable, but you understand how to deal with it.
Hmm.
And 10% of the time it's predictable, and those are usually boss fights,
Yeah.
right? I think that loop kind of flips it around. Like 90% of the time it's fully predictable, and only when you make progress it stops being predictable, or when you get invaded by Juliana.
Hmm.
But I don't actually enjoy the invasions.
No.
Mhm.
So
I
I don't know.
found like later on the invasions for me became like a way to avoid to having to kill the visionaries again and again to collect the slabs. I was like, I'm just gonna hang around here a bit until Juliana comes in because
Right.
I'd just rather just shoot her
Yeah.
and get the stuff, get
Yeah.
lucky, rather than having to go through the motion again. And I think when I thought that way, is when I realized like, wait,
Not having fun
I'm
anymore.
not having fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, it's still a phenomenal world, and I intend to continue and at least finish it, because I feel like the first hours, the first, like, what, 7 to 10 hours that I played of it,
Yeah, that's
they were
great.
phenomenal,
Yeah, fantastic.
and I feel like it deserves the payoff of at least knowing where it goes.
Same.
But I've definitely hit like the lull in the game.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I
Um,
felt like time used to fly in that the early part, and then it started to slow down a bit for me more and more. But like you, Rami, I want to finish it. I want to see it through.
mhm.
Like because like I think the first 10 hours or 7 to 8 hours of this game is just worth the price of admission alone.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
but I want to see it. I want to see everything come together as well. So
Hmm.
Yeah, and then sorry, was there more thoughts on that loop?
no,
Yeah,
no.
just one last one.
Oh,
Actually, I did not play much again. I had another busiest week of all time, and I
wow.
collect those. Maybe not as busy as you and your orchestra, Rami, but it's still pretty busy. I
Well, that was
played.
just the last 2 days of my week. So
I moved the needle a little bit more on Deathloop, but actually, there's something I kind of need to call out. As I mentioned before, I'm in love with the narrative. I love the voice acting. There's a lot to love about it. And I think there's a testament to how old I'm getting. And I know I'm going to regret saying this in front of Rami, but giving him more fuel.
getting? What do you mean getting?
What do you mean getting?
I was expecting to regret it a little bit later. I mean, right away.
Let's just
Um,
get it out of the way.
yeah.
Okay, let's continue.
the,
Tfaddal.
the font size is impossibly small.
Oh.
That even if I'm wearing my glasses, I can't read it. I have to like get another chair and sit closer to the TV, which I don't feel like doing when
Right.
and I don't know if this is first world problems, like, oh, my couch is so far from
No,
the TV, or
absolutely not.
it's just there's no setting. I actually went
Yeah.
and I looked for a setting for it, and it's white on black, which is supposed to be more legible, but I can't read.
Uh,
I've you
I'll
know
be
how
really honest. Some of the discussion I've seen about that loop, that from an accessibility point of view, because I'm Able Gamers ambassador, so I keep track of sort of like accessibility in games a lot as well.
yeah,
It's miserable.
it
Like
is.
that loop did a really really poor job of accessibility, and I really hope they'll address it in a patch because this is not the AAA standards. You can't do that.
No, what it reminds me of is when I played Dead Rising a million years ago. I had to buy a new TV because I had
Right.
back then I still had an SD.
Because back then you were also old. I'm looking at you.
No, they I think they made the game for HD displays. I still had an
Right.
SD TV at that point, and I had an HD monitor, so I played like computer games in HD, but whatever console games I played them in SD, and I could not understand the text. And that was another game that was explaining you things that you had to understand. And this one, I feel like I'd squint, I'd lean forward, I'd read some of the text, and sometimes I'd be like, whatever, this is probably not important anyway, and I'd skip it, and I have no idea what I've skipped. So like,
Right.
there's a lot of instructions that just went over my head, and I'm almost like I didn't get that far in. I probably played
I
about
mean,
3 hours at this point, and I'm like seriously considering just like starting over, reading every word, and like sitting close to the TV.
no, for that loop, just wait until they patch it. Like I said, this has to get patched. There's too many people that don't have the ability to just read like that, right? Like
Yeah,
that's not an old thing. That's anybody can have issues with sight or contrast or color blindness or whatever. Like those are just people. People exist,
yeah,
and you can't just be like, well, this game isn't for you. Like that loop is clearly made for people that enjoy smart, cleverly designed, interesting, different games.
hmm,
And making that inaccessible to people by not having a basic UI like skill,
yeah.
like come on,
It's
what are
heart.
you to like?
It's heartbreaking, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of tutorial text. Like, it's pop up after pop up. So like, it's anyway. I'm a little disappointed in that part. I wish they could have handled that better because there's so many talks and so
Yeah.
many presentations in our industry about accessibility, especially about font size and subtitles and all that stuff. I feel like I don't get how this was missed.
I mean, I have a feeling that a lot of it was that this game seems to have been made on a budget, right?
That makes
Like
sense.
that's really is the feeling that I'm getting. I disagree with the prioritization there, but I also understand the game has to ship at some point. But I absolutely hope that this is a immediate patch priority,
I hope
right?
so.
This should be top of triage because subtitles being readable,
Yeah,
um, text in booklets that you find being readable,
yeah.
stuff like that. It should just be there.
Just haven't encountered this problem in such a long time to this level that it kind of shocked me, to be quite
Yeah.
honest.
No, I understand. I I'll switch to another game then.
Go.
Mhm.
I played two other games,
Ooh.
Mhm.
both on Switch because I was traveling.
Okay.
The first one is a little game called Beastbreaker. It's made by Asher Volmer, who you might know of Threes,
Yeah.
Mm.
and it is
I love threes.
a it is an RPG esque game about a tiny mouse that fights monsters by being a pinball.
Oh, I've seen this.
And it is the most charming game that it could possibly be, given that it is a game about a tiny mouse fighting giant monsters by being a pinball. Um, it really shouldn't be as charming as it is, but the music, the gameplay, everything comes together. Now, for disclaimer, I'm friends with a lot of people, or I'm close or friends or whatever, with a lot of people that are working on that game.
Mhm.
So I do want to. I mean, that's true for a lot of games, but I
Yeah.
want to specifically point it out on
Always
this one.
call it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't take any of our recommendations seriously.
Right. Yeah. We're friends with pretty much friends with somebody on the team pretty much every game we talk about. And this game
That's
is a
probably
little extra
literal.
intense.
Between
Yeah.
the three of us, that's actually probably
Yes.
literal.
Yes. So yeah, I did. It's a little intense on this one, so I wanted to point that out. But I really think that game came like it's good. It's good. It's entertaining. It's a little silly. It combines like some strategy stuff with a pinball game, with an RPG, with a like I don't even know how to describe it, but I had a lot of time just playing time away with it. And then a big thing happened because I was playing Beast Breakers and I was having a great time, and I think it would have been really hard to pull me away from Beast Breakers, and I'll go back to it to finish it. But Nintendo did Nintendo Direct, and just dropped ActRaiser out of the heavens.
What a surprise, right? They're like, oh,
What?
there's a Nintendo Direct tomorrow. Oh, also there's an ActRaiser remake. Also, it's out now.
I was shocked. I was on stage at the orchestra when that happened. I got off stage. I checked my Twitter, and I was like, "What do you mean ActRaiser remake? What are you talking? I've loved ActRaiser since I was a kid.
Is it good?
Since I first
Well, I haven't played it.
Yeah, Fawzi, I don't know how to tell you this. It is not what you want. And it's also not necessarily what you need.
Oh no, you start to
But
sound
it's-
like my doctor.
But it's also not bad.
Okay.
Okay.
It is weird. There are a lot of moments where you're like, oh, it's ActRaiser. You know, like you go down, you come from your heavenly castle, palace, floating sky place, you drop down and you do some hack and slash, right?
Uh-huh.
And hack and slash isn't great. It's not, I mean, the old one was obviously very clunky because it was back in the old days, and it tried to make this more smoother, but they kept the level design, so it doesn't actually work all that well.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got like a ground pound, you've got like an uppercut, you've got all that stuff. But then they chopped the levels up into like 6 sequences as if it was made for a mobile game from 2012.
Okay.
So, Fillmore 1, which is like your opening stage in ActRaiser, is normally just a left to right thing. You just start on the left of the level, you go to the right of the level, and the boss is at the right end.
Yeah.
In this game, there's like 6 level transitions before you get there.
Okay. So like
You walk off the right side of the screen, and then you go into a new area, and then you continue there. I genuinely stood in front of one of these transitions for like a minute because I was like, "Where's the boss? Why's the boss not spawning?"
so like they added new segments.
So not necessarily.
Okay.
Sometimes it's literally just the old level just chopped into more stuff.
Okay.
So that's weird.
That's strange.
The strategy part has also gone a little weirder. It still works mostly the same way. You're still like guiding people to places. You're still using miracles to like open opportunities for your people. But they've added sort of a tower defense and hero kind of game to it.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so that's new. And then when you close one of the monster pits, which normally you need to let your villagers there, you now have to go in and fight a boss.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Not a bad addition, I'd have to say.
So that's the thing. Everything they've added is not necessarily bad. I mean, I really don't like the changes they've made to the platforming.
Yeah.
I'll be really honest. I think that's miserable. Like left to right should just be left to right, khalas, right? Like I don't understand how we're in 2021 and we're having a rougher time doing a single level from start to boss than we had in, what was it, 1992 or something? Yeah. So I don't understand. I don't understand the aesthetic choice. I don't understand why that happened. But in terms of it being an ActRaiser game, it is absolutely unmistakably an ActRaiser game. You're still building the towns. You're still guiding the people. You're still using your miracles. You're still going in, and your statue turns to life and you fight things. But when you finish a level, I haven't seen I didn't turn back to a statue in many of the cases, which I was very disappointed about. But that's it. So is it a good game so far? I'm having a good time. Is it ActRaiser? Well, yes. At the core, it's an ActRaiser game. But the way they evolved it is not necessarily to my liking. But it's still ActRaiser. So I'm just playing it. I'm having a pretty good time with it. I'll be really honest. It's pretty. It's pretty at times. It's ugly at others, but it's ActRaiser, so I don't actually care all that much. I'm just glad to be playing it again.
Sounds cool. I like some of the stuff that you mentioned that they added to the whole village part. That sounds cool.
Yeah, it can be. It has good moments for sure. It has moments where I'm like, oh, that's that. If they could have done that back in the days, they absolutely would have. Right, and those are the good additions. And then there's the choices where you're like, what? Anyway, this is the part where I shut up because I've been talking for 45 minutes straight. I've had an exciting week.
Yes.
It sounds like it.
Well, I did a thing too. Wait, Fawzi, did you do a thing?
I, I watched some movies and some TV series that I want to talk about, but I talked about Deathloop as well. Osama, why don't you go first?
Are you sure? All right,
Yeah, go
I'll
for it.
jump in. So I watched a movie. It's called Free Guy. I don't know if any of you have heard of it.
Yeah,
That's
I haven't seen it yet,
me
but I
neither. I've seen it on billboards and stuff, but I haven't seen it yet.
I have
Well,
a weird feeling that there's not much to spoil about this movie.
yeah, the entire spoiler pretty much is in the trailer. If
Right.
either of you have seen the trailer, you know what the concept is, and you
Oh,
could
good.
pretty much guess how it ends. Like there's the surprises, because there are surprises in the movie. But I'll give you the concept anyway. For those of you who don't want to hear, like skip out the next 30 seconds, I'll put it in the show notes. But really, you could get this from the trailer. So you have a uh, NPC in an open world game who at some point becomes aware. So it's an artificial intelligence type uh, story. He becomes aware and he starts becoming famous because he's not acting like a normal NPC, and that's throwing everybody off. The part that's a little bit less clear in the trailer is that there's this conspiracy about someone from a game company who stole code, although he paid for it in the story, from people and shelved it instead of. So he basically robbed them of royalty. He used their code, he bought it, but he pretended he didn't put it in the game.
This movie got too real. I'm gonna skip it.
and and the AI code is what made this NPC, become self-aware because their video game AI code is so advanced that it it spawned these like this is the thing about the game. The game is really fun. It's funny. It's enjoyable. Like I'm not sure if it's well received, but like it's entertaining throughout, and yet it's bothered me so much because it got literally everything it possibly could get about game development wrong. Like it almost went out of its way to get it wrong.
I mean, somebody buying code and then trying to withhold royalties sounds pretty real to me.
yes, that part is real. Okay, so since we're still in spoiler mode, do you want to hear what part isn't
Sure,
real about the code?
sure.
So these two people who sold the code, one of them gave up and said, "Whatever, I'm just going to work for this big company," and the other is on a hunt to find the code in the game. So the one who works at the company isn't looking for the code, and he's just working as a playtester, even though he has the opportunity to be a coder and find the code. And the other one who wants to find the code isn't working at the company, is playing the game and looking in locations for the code. And the code is actually at a random player's house. So they have to invade a random player's house to find the AI code. Like, it doesn't follow any logic whatsoever. Absolutely not. And they keep mentioning it because this is like the main plot line. And every time they don't mention that, I could suspend disbelief and I could just enjoy the jokes. The acting from Ryan Reynolds is really good. It's phenomenal. It's really funny. There's a lot of like little in jokes for people who play video games. There are a lot of cameos from like Twitch streamers and stuff. I recognize two or three of them. I'm sure the others are even more famous than the two or three I recognize. Like there's a lot there for gamers to like, and in my humble opinion, nothing there for game devs to like, and a lot there to trigger game devs. So
Right.
yeah, it's hard. It's a hard movie to recommend to anyone from two reasons. One, for game devs, it's probably gonna gnaw at you the entire time. I've never seen like it's since Grandma's Boy. Remember that movie?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
yeah, I think this got it more wrong somehow. Like about how games are made. In some ways better, in some ways worse. Oh yeah, another scene that happens that I was like, oh yeah, of course people think that's how it works. Um, the antagonist takes an axe to servers, and each server is associated to a building that comes crumbling down in the game because he hits a server, and of course the data of that building exists only in that server. Like there's a one-to-one relationship between it. It's things like that where I'm like, okay, you know what? That one on its own might have gotten a pass if that was like the thing they got wrong. But no, they literally
I
got.
mean, I want to talk to their IT person.
Yeah.
I think we can. I think we can do this data a little smarter than having to like go into 75 servers to render one scene.
But that's the thing. It's hard to even, from a game dev's perspective, it's hard to even recommend it to a gamer because it just so miseducates people about how games are made that I'm like, I have to like give you a companion booklet that explains you everything that's wrong and then allow you to go enjoy the movie and laugh at the jokes and do the rest because I feel irresponsible that I'm just, if I push people towards this. Either way, I'm going to a little bit of an extreme in my opinion. It's one of those things that gnaws at me, and I'm not sure who else. But like, I'm sure other game devs have similar opinions. It's an enjoyable movie, but it's just so painful to watch because they get so many things wrong. That's
Yeah.
my final statement.
I'm like you. I think there's something about reinforcing wrong notions of game development in the eyes of general public that really triggers me. It's
Yeah.
just bad enough that a lot of people don't really understand what you're doing, but still give advice or words
Yes.
of assurances, let's say, as if they do.
Yes.
So I wouldn't like that more movies would just fall into cliches as well about what game making is and who game makers are like and stuff like that. It's not cool anymore. It's an outdated concept as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly. Well put.
So what is the love subplot?
What is the
There
what?
has there has to be a love subplot.
Oh
This
yeah,
is
absolutely.
silly enough. Okay, good,
Absolutely.
good.
So
All right.
one of the creators. This is kind of incestuous if you think about it. But one of the creators
What?
of the AI falls in
Okay,
What?
love.
stop, 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 stop. I just played 12 minutes. I don't need more of that. Fauzi, what did you play? I'm good. I don't, it's good. Alhamdulillah, I didn't, what
Okay.
even?
Now,
How did this happen?
well, now I have to finish the statement because now people are thinking all the wrong thing. Thank you, Rami.
You said incestuous.
Yes.
What are they supposed to get out of it?
What I'm saying is one of the creators of the AI falls in love with the NPC that gained consciousness. So I meant it in that way. So like she's like the mother.
So wait, a coder fell in love with the
the
code?
code.
Oh yeah, that's pretty reasonable. That
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
fair enough.
Yeah. So my analogy was that like she was the mother. And she fell in love with the NPC she created, but I guess that made it worse. Maybe I should have stopped when I was.
So Fauzi, what did you?
Let me jump in and save the day here.
Yes. Well, at least we know what to cut. From this
You don't think
conversation.
I'm cutting this, right?
Oh no, Rami. What are you doing?
I think the episode is just going to be called incestuous.
Oh no. Oh no.
All right.
So I played a video game, but I want to talk about that next week because I didn't give it enough time. So I'll save it till there. Here you go. Cliffhanger number 1.
Okay, done. Hope you enjoyed this episode. And,
So send emails at info at Habibis.
That's number 3. I love it.
here we go.
There we go.
All right. Okay, let's give Fauzi some minutes after me talking for 45 minutes straight.
I went to the cinema for the first time in God knows how long, and I watched Dune.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh,
I haven't seen it yet.
what a
How is
movie!
it?
So I'm usually spoiler averse. So in this case, I'm gonna be even more spoiler averse because I imagine once both of you guys seen it,
Oh yeah. No,
we're
we
gonna
have
need
not
to
yet.
talk.
Yeah.
We're gonna need to talk desert and Arabs and stuff like that for
Of
sure.
course. Of course.
And what is it, Lisan al Ghaib and stuff like that. There's a lot. There's Arabic aplenty in that movie. Coolest thing about it is that most of this movie seems to be shot in Wadi Rum in Jordan. So it's a very funny thing for me because like there's so many movies that's been shot in Jordan. I was tweeting about that the other day, like The Martian, Prometheus, Lords of Arabia. So many movies get shot in Wadi Rum specifically. I'm very familiar with that area. So it's kind of hard for me to believe that this is another world. you know, like this is like the world of Dune and the desert. I'm like, yeah, yeah. I camped here. We had we had falafel under this rock. Like it's very familiar territory for me. So like I can understand though why it would look otherworldly for a lot of people. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Beautiful.
Mhm.
Absolutely a must see if you're in Jordan. But for me, it kind of suspends my disbelief as I'm watching any movie because I go like, oh yeah, I know this area quite well. Um, so Dune as a movie. So if I can tell you what I think about it, generally, without going to details, maybe we'll have a spoiler discussion about it at some point in the future. I
Mhm.
felt that it is visually spectacular. It is absolutely a movie that is trying to impress you with every single frame.
Mhm.
Sometimes I wonder in its quest to impress you all the time. Sometimes I feel it forgets to entertain you.
Mm.
I felt that
Mm,
the pacing was a little bit off of that movie.
Mm.
I felt like sometimes there were like a lot of information in a very short period of time, and then there's not a lot of information in a prolonged piece that didn't give me much. It definitely feels that this is a movie that carries the weight of the source material.
Mhm.
Like the
mm,
more aware of the source material you are, the more likely you are to enjoy it and watch it and you know see the words turn into visuals. It will have without a doubt a remarkable effect on you.
Mhm.
I do think that sometimes in the storytelling parts of the movie, it's a hit or miss in some areas. So
it feels very Villeneuve to me, to be honest.
very
Like
what?
the
Sorry.
way you're
Villeneuve.
just the Villeneuve, the director.
Ah, yes. Yeah. True.
Like, because he had the same problem with Arrival, I feel, where you read the short story and you watch the movie and you're like, wow, it's a very coherent adaptation of the book material,
Hmm.
and it diverts in sensible places,
Yeah.
but then you can't take the pacing of a book and make that a movie.
Correct.
And he really tries every time.
Yes. It definitely like it brings in the same kind of I would say by now it's almost his signature pacing because Blade Runner I felt also fell under some of these
Yes.
issues too.
Yep.
Agreed.
In which like when you think back of Blade Runner, it had a very unique visual identity. Like when I say the Blade Runner sequel, your brain is now purple and yellow probably.
Yes.
Right.
And like have a lot of scenes in your mind that is associated very strong visual identity. And
Yeah.
like kudos for him and the cinematographers that he works with and all of these people. But there was undoubtedly issues in the pacing of that Blade Runner movie.
Yep.
And yeah, Dune just feels like there is such a big world that it's impossible to fit in a movie or three. Like I feel
Right.
like give him a series, give him like 12 hours to tell the story properly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But without a doubt, an amazing cinematic experience. Like you'd enjoy it in the cinema. It's really good to be back in the cinema. For that matter, yeah, very enjoyable. I would have to
I'm
say,
just
but could be better in my eyes.
right. I'm just laughing because both of us, like both me and you, Fauzi, we haven't been to the cinema for a while, and Osama here has been waiting for us to go see Shang-Chi
Please.
forever.
Please.
And
I want
you just going to June is like the funny. Somehow that's the funniest thing to me that I've heard in like weeks. so, so you went to the cinema. Nice. Did you see June? Beautiful.
It's on the list.
Yeah.
It was impossible to avoid Dune.
Yes. Of
Everybody's watching
course.
it. It's the zeitgeist right now, and
Of
Right.
yeah,
course.
I've been really looking forward to it as well. So
Yes. And I don't want to take away from Dune's Thunder, but Shang-Chi was really good. It really
I'm
was.
just
all right.
It's a
I'm
different
just
kind of
gonna
movie, though.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna enjoy the this and just leave it like this.
Yeah.
Leave it right there. No, it's phenomenal. I'm really looking forward to seeing both. I actually have I have a friend that I sometimes go on like movie marathons with,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
and I'm planning the first one again because Free Guy hasn't left the cinema here yet because
Uh-huh.
there's just nothing happening.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking of doing a Shang-Chi, Free Guy, June like movie day,
Nice.
Wow,
and just
that's a lot
cram
of
my
movie
day in
for
the
That's
one
a
cinema.
full on
day.
day.
Yeah.
I did 4 or 5 in one day once,
Wow.
and it was a mistake. Let me see if I can find the order. Let me see if I can find the order of in which I watched those movies.
He started
'Cause-
with the Fellowship of the Ring, then
Yeah.
then the Two
Yes.
Towers.
No, what is it? Because I watched Knives Out on that day,
Ooh, good movie.
and that
Yes,
was a
that
really,
an
really good
excellent
movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I also had Star Wars
Which
Mhm.
one?
on that day,
Which one was that one?
which was Skywalker.
Okay, okay.
Pretty good.
Um, and then what was it? Yeah. Okay. So it had Knives Out, which I was really excited about because people were talking really well about it, and I went, okay, great, let's go watch that. And then Rise of Skywalker, because I had promised friends, and this was the second time I was watching Rise of Skywalker,
Hmm.
and I hated it the first time I watched it. And somehow I hated it more the second time I watched it. So I came out of Knives Out being just like, wow, cinema is great. And then I went into Skywalker and I came out and I was like, cinema is cynical. And then guess what I ended the day with?
What?
What?
Cats.
What?
What?
Oh,
Rami,
why?
what are you doing?
Why?
And here it is. The tweet was, what the unholy was that? Cats is the most uncomfortable horror movie I have ever watched. Cats is not halal.
Accurate description.
I've
Yeah.
yet to see it, and I have zero intention to. I watched a
Good.
trailer, and that was too much
It's,
for
it's,
me.
it's haram. Don't do it.
It is absolutely, watching that movie needs you to fast Ramadan like flawlessly for at least 10 years, and like, you can barely make up for it. But yeah, it was
That's
was
hilarious.
so yeah, I've done days like that where there's like 3 or 4 movies in a row, and I actually enjoyed them because you just kind of have a day off, right? You just go to the cinema in early afternoon. You just stick around there till night. You just walk out, grab a new ticket, walk into the next movie.
I'm too big for those chairs. My butt would hurt after one movie. I can't imagine doing 3. I'd have
I
to go
mean-
to one of those VIP theaters in order
Yeah,
to
that's
do that.
I usually get like the VIP chairs for
Yeah.
those days.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's the
I
only
will
way.
tell you, if you go watch Cats, everything will hurt, not just your butt. Like, literally, there will be no part of your existence that will not hurt.
Oh no.
And it's not just your body, it's your existence, right? Like your soul, your heart, your mind,
So
like everything.
I don't walk out on people, but if you had invited me to that, to Rami, it would have been 2 movies for me and 3 for you and your friend. There's no way
Right.
I would have. Oh God, I can't even.
After Rise of Skywalker, having to go into Cats with that sort of like whiplash of just how not good Skywalker was, and then going into Cats knowing that the only person I know that really appreciates that movie on a deep level is Anthony Carboni, and he just likes bad things sometimes. Yeah, I was just like, this is a mistake, but paid for the ticket. I'm not going to throw away money, so I went to the movie and I threw away money. I could have kept the 2 hours of my life,
Yep.
and that would have been a better use of my expense than going to that movie. Phenomenal.
It's hilarious, man.
But yeah, I look forward to talking to you about June because I have thoughts about Arab
hey,
representation
hey.
in June anyway.
But Shang-Chi too, right?
Yes.
Right?
Oh, that's a movie. Yeah, I've heard of it.
You bums.
Yeah, I'll try and see both.
Should make
Yes,
the
please.
time for both.
Yes.
and
make
Free Guy, all 3, one shot.
Well, Free Guy we don't really have to see.
I'm
It's so
okay.
accurate. It's like we're living it, right? So
I mean, every time I take an axe to a server, I think, wow, I really hope this is the right building.
it might have been a hammer. I don't remember specifically, but it was some kind of a weapon. Hit the server.
The fact that you can't remember what he was hitting the server with is somehow very spectacular. Yeah, he just smashed some servers with a blunt object or sharp.
Or sharp.
It could be anything.
It could have been a
Well,
pool
we're gonna
noodle.
We're going to use a blunt object to end this podcast for today.
It's more like a sharp object.
Oh, that cuts deep.
Because that cuts deep. Exactly.
We are over 1 hour, and I apologize for being 45 minutes of everybody's day.
It's okay. I know just the part to cut.
Is it me talking about the orchestra?
No.
Because then we'll have a 7-minute episode.
It's me talking about the relationship in Free Guy.
Well, now that you've mentioned it, I can't cut it
Well, you can
anymore
cut
because
this
I'll have to
part
cut here.
too.
So, yeah, that's too much work. I've had a busy week. This is just. I'm literally just going to post the raw version
Oh,
of this.
no.
I don't remember anybody cursing, so we should be fine.
I said bum. You have to beep that out.
Bum is not a curse. What? There are angels listening to this podcast who are like, yeah, that's reasonable. Anyway, if you enjoyed the podcast or you have suggestions for names for episode 30, no, never mind. Like, just send us emails so Osama's happy. Like,
All the emails.
at some point, we want to have a segment where Osama can just be happy and read emails.
I
back.
want to read
So
emails. Please.
if you can just do that, that'll make Osama really happy. Ask him some questions, something like that. Fawzi and I will also be very appreciative, but like you don't understand how happy you would make Osama. Thank you for
We don't
everybody who asked.
understand why it's making him that happy.
I don't even like emails. I don't know what's happening.
Or just come hang out in Discord. We're, as always, at discord.thehabibis.com. Things there are lovely. Come hang out. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Habibis. We will be back next week, same time, same place. Yeah.
Hopefully.
If there's no, inshallah. You know what? Inshallah, everything.
Inshallah, same time, same place.
Inshallah, we're gonna now end the podcast. Salam.
Salam.
That was the Habibis podcast for this week. I was Rami Ismail, your host for this episode. You can find me on Twitter at @THA_Rami. My fellow Habibis were Osama Dorias, who you can find on Twitter at Osama Dorias, and Fawzi Mesmar, who you can find on Twitter at Fawzi Mesmar. Send us your questions, stories, and suggestions via info@thehabibis.com. The intro and outro music was provided by Malik Zubayla, and the logo was provided by Ibrahim Hamdi. The Habibis is a weekly podcast about 3 game developers drinking good Arab tea, with new episodes launching every Friday, inshallah. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcasting service or check out thehabibis.com for more information. Thank you for listening, and salam.